Well, I'm here at the Oval with someone who knows it probably just as well as anyone because of all those appearances for Surrey. Rory Burns, what does it mean to you to come back and play an Ashes test here in front of the Surrey faithful?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool feeling, isn't it? I'm absolutely delighted to be here and have that opportunity, and I just can't wait to get out there.
It's been a summer where you've actually made a terrific impression coming into the side when batting has been really difficult. What have you put that down to?
Probably the Ireland test helped, actually. A couple of failures there, and a little bit of talk about my position in the side and those sort of things, and it probably helped me to go back to coaches and people that I really trust in terms of what are you seeing, am I doing anything different, because in county cricket a lot of the time you just sort of on the hamster wheel just trying to work things out on the road. So it probably took me to going back to them and just having a really clear mindset and going about my business that way.
What were you doing in the Ireland test and what did they help you fix?
Just a little thing with my hands, so sort of got them a little bit further back in check, but a lot of it was just to do with clearing my mind of a lot of things and just getting back to batting how I bat. So yeah.
There's been a lot of discussion about your technique and how sometimes it does appear sometimes when you're at the crease that you've suddenly heard someone at mid-off say something nasty about your mum or something.
Mid-on, I think.
Oh, mid-on, yeah, probably mid-on. There's someone there saying something. How did that develop? And have you had lots of people critique your technique?
I think everyone's got their own sort of critique on what goes on. It kind of developed from I'm left eye dominant, so I just wanted to get my left eye on the ball as much as I could, and then I think it just sort of became a rhythm thing in terms of I think everyone's got their own sort of little bounce or jig before they go, so it's just become a rhythm thing, and that's how it's developed.
Well, it certainly worked for you. Have you been happy with the way that you've batted throughout this series?
Happy to a certain extent. Probably fairly content, but also at the same time I think I've missed a couple of opportunities to go really big. I think particularly as an opening batsman, once you get in you've really got to try and make them count, so that 80 last week I'd have loved it to have been 3 figures from a personal standpoint, and probably the same again at Lords. When you pass these sort of milestones you've got to try and make them as big as you can, so I think the key for me now is just to keep developing and pushing on.
It's probably no coincidence that you're batting in a position that you've batted in a lot, and you've made a lot of runs in county cricket. It's quite a traditional way to come into the test side that doesn't always happen. How much has that helped you, having that background, make the transition to test cricket?
Yeah, I think it definitely has helped. I think in terms of techniques and run scoring and that sort of stuff, I think within county cricket, to do it for prolonged periods of time and to back up seasons and those sort of things, you've got to have some key sort of fundamentals to your batting, and you're doing things right. And for me, that's something to fall back on, particularly when times don't go as well as I wanted them to, particularly after that Ireland game. It's just sort of staying true to those things and trying to push on from that stage.
Have you set any personal goals beyond this test?
No, I'm just. Hopefully, we get back to 2-2, so they just so the Aussies just retain it rather than fully on regain it, and that's about it. I think I haven't looked too far ahead.
How deep is that motivation? How much have you talked about that as a team?
We just, after that game, there was a lot of disappointed fellas in that room. Obviously, we set out to try and win the series and get the earn back, but at the same time, I think there's still a lot of business to be done. There's World Test Championship and points to play for in that case. So it's heads on and get in amongst the work and try and get that win this week.
Well, there's one thing that's certain, and that's this crowd will be definitely behind you throughout this test. Good luck for the rest of the series.
Cheers, thanks a lot.